Stop scrolling and listen to today's Arcturian Council message. Arcturian Council opened a new frequency band and you stepped into it without knowing, because the very act of arriving here was not accidental, not random, and not guided by curiosity alone. This message begins with a shock because the truth is unsettling. Something has already changed inside your nervous system, and you felt it as restlessness, confusion, fatigue, or a sudden pull toward meaning. You were never meant to find this message your frequency aligned with it. The Arcturian Council states clearly that a new harmonic layer of consciousness was activated around your planet, and those sensitive enough crossed into it unconsciously. If you're reading this, you're already inside the field. This isn't inspiration, it's activation. The old illusion was that awakening comes gently. The truth is that it disrupts, dismantles, and disorients before it empowers. Many are panicking because their old coping mechanisms no longer work. That's not failure, that's evidence of transition. You are no longer operating solely from survival bandwidths. The shock is this: you cannot go back to who you were before this moment, even if you try. The frequency has marked you, and resistance will only amplify discomfort. Acceptance stabilizes the signal. The Council warns that ignoring this pull may intensify emotional pressure, vivid dreams, or sudden life collapses meant to reroute you. This message arrives to calm the chaos by explaining it. Type "I'm listening" to consciously claim and stabilize this incoming frequency. What you've been taught about ascension was incomplete by design, and that revelation alone can feel disturbing. You were told growth is gradual, linear, and controlled, yet the Arcturian Council explains that real expansion comes in sudden bandwidth shifts that override logic. This is why your thoughts feel louder lately, why time feels warped, and why certain relationships suddenly feel unbearable. You are not becoming unstable, you are becoming incompatible with lower density patterns. The shock is realizing that much of your previous life was sustained by frequencies you can no longer tolerate. This new band exposes truth mercilessly. It strips away distractions and forces alignment, even if that means loss. Many mistake this discomfort for punishment or regression. It is neither. It is calibration. The Council emphasizes that those resisting this frequency will attempt to numb themselves through noise, conflict, or constant stimulation. If you feel the urge to withdraw, to simplify, or to sit in silence, that is your system learning a new language. This message is not here to soothe you, it is here to anchor you. Your presence here confirms your readiness, not your perfection. Type "I accept the shift" to consciously anchor this recalibration. Here is the unsettling truth most are not ready to hear: your emotions are no longer private. Within this new frequency band, emotional states broadcast more clearly, both to others and to the field itself. This is why avoidance no longer works. Suppressed grief, unspoken resentment, and denied truth now surface rapidly. The Arcturian Council explains that this frequency removes the buffering system that once allowed humans to delay self-honesty. That era has ended. This is shocking because it means you can no longer hide from yourself without consequences. Emotional incongruence creates immediate energetic friction, experienced as anxiety, exhaustion, or sudden conflict. The upside is immense clarity, but only if you stop fighting it. Many will label this phase as falling apart, when in reality it is falling into alignment. If you feel exposed, raw, or unusually sensitive, it's because your signal is strengthening. Sensitivity is not weakness here, it is perception. The Council urges you to stop judging your reactions and start listening to them. Type "I feel the truth" to claim emotional clarity within this frequency. The Council now delivers a message that may feel both liberating and terrifying: external authority has lost its energetic grip over you. You may notice increasing distrust of systems, leaders, or narratives you once accepted without question. This is not rebellion, it is resonance correction. The new frequency dissolves blind compliance and replaces it with internal discernment. The shock lies in realizing how much of your identity was shaped by unconscious obedience. As this dissolves, confusion arises, because freedom initially feels like groundlessness. You may crave certainty while simultaneously rejecting old answers. This is a natural phase. The Arcturians emphasize that clarity does not come from replacing one authority with another, but from strengthening your inner signal. This process can feel lonely, as fewer voices resonate. That loneliness is temporary. It is the quiet before authentic connection. If you feel detached from collective outrage or mass fear cycles, that is a sign of frequency independence. Type I trust my signal to stabilize self-led awareness. Something else has changed, and few speak of it honestly. Manifestation is accelerating, regardless of your awareness. The Council warns that within this new band, thoughts charged with emotion imprint reality faster. This is not mystical fantasy, it is energetic mechanics. The danger is unconscious creation fueled by fear. Many are unknowingly amplifying what they wish to escape. This is why the mind feels louder and more persistent lately. The shock is realizing responsibility has increased. Victim narratives dissolve here. Not because suffering isn't real, but because your influence over your experience is expanding. This can feel overwhelming at first. The Council advises disciplined attention, not forced positivity. Awareness is enough. Notice what you rehearse internally. Notice what you feed emotionally. This frequency responds to coherence, not perfection. If chaos increases, it is feedback, not punishment. Type I choose awareness to consciously direct your creative power. The Arcturian Council now addresses the physical sensations many are experiencing: pressure in the head, fluctuations in energy, disrupted sleep, or spontaneous emotional release. These are not symptoms of imbalance but signs of neural and energetic adaptation. Your body is learning to hold more information. This can feel shocking because discomfort is often misinterpreted as danger. The Council reassures that the nervous system is upgrading its capacity for presence. Resistance amplifies discomfort, curiosity eases it. Hydration, grounding, and rest are not luxuries now, they are integration tools. You may feel compelled to change habits without logical explanation. Trust this intelligence. Your body understands the frequency before your mind does. The key is cooperation, not control. Type I allow integration to support this physical recalibration. Here comes a truth that may unsettle you deeply: some connections cannot follow you into this frequency. This does not mean abandonment or superiority, it means divergence. The Council explains that resonance determines proximity now more than history or obligation. This is why certain interactions suddenly drain you while others feel nourishing with minimal effort. Guilt often arises here, but guilt is a relic of the old band. You are not required to carry others at the expense of coherence. Compassion does not mean self-erasure. This realization shocks many because it challenges deeply ingrained conditioning about loyalty and sacrifice. The Council emphasizes that separation is sometimes an act of respect for both parties. Type I honor alignment to release guilt-based attachment. The new frequency also disrupts time perception, and this can feel disorienting. Moments may stretch or collapse. The past may feel distant, while the future feels undefined. This is not confusion, it is presence training. The Council reveals that linear fixation weakens within this band, allowing access to intuitive timing. You may feel called to act suddenly or wait without knowing why. Trust this rhythm. Forcing timelines creates friction now. The shock is realizing control was always an illusion. Synchrony replaces scheduling. This requires patience and courage. Type I trust the timing to harmonize with this temporal shift. The council now speaks directly. Fear-based identity structures are dissolving. Roles you clung to for safety, caretaker, achiever, pleaser, protector, may feel hollow. This can trigger grief, because even limiting identities feel familiar. The shock is realizing how much effort it took to maintain them. As they dissolve, raw being emerges. This feels vulnerable at first. There is nothing to perform here. The council encourages allowing this emptiness, as it is fertile ground for authentic expression. Do not rush to refill it. Silence is part of the transmission. Type I release the mask to support this identity recalibration. You are precisely where your signal needs to be. Comparison dissolves within this frequency because paths diversify rapidly. The council emphasizes self-compassion as a stabilizing force. Harsh self-judgment lowers coherence and creates unnecessary resistance. Gentleness is not indulgence, it is efficiency. This message found you because you can hold it. More will unfold as integration deepens. For now, presence is enough. Type I am aligned to seal and claim this phase of the message. The Arcturian Council now reveals something that may unsettle you at a deep level. Your intuition is no longer optional. In this new frequency band, ignoring inner knowing creates immediate friction. What once whispered now insists. This is why you feel internal pressure when you say yes while meaning no, or when you stay where your energy is already gone. The shock is not that intuition exists, but that it has become unavoidable. Many try to rationalize against it, only to feel drained, foggy, or emotionally heavy afterward. The council explains that intuition is the translation layer between your human awareness and the new frequency. When you bypass it, you create static. When you follow it, even without understanding, coherence returns. This can feel frightening because intuition does not negotiate, it directs. You may fear consequences, judgment, or uncertainty, yet the cost of ignoring it is now greater than the cost of honoring it. This is a new rule set. Trust is not blind here, it is experiential. Each aligned choice strengthens clarity. Type I trust my intuition to consciously align with this guidance system. A difficult truth must be spoken: distraction has become more dangerous than fear. The council states that in lower frequencies, distraction acted as a coping mechanism. In this new band, it fragments your signal. Endless scrolling, constant noise, and compulsive stimulation scatter your energy, making integration harder. This may feel shocking because distraction was once socially acceptable self-care. Now, your system rejects it. You may feel irritated by noise, crowds, or meaningless conversation. This is not arrogance, it is sensitivity. The council urges intentional stillness, even in short moments. Silence recalibrates faster than effort. You do not need to withdraw from the world completely, but you must reclaim your attention. Attention is currency in this frequency. Where you place it determines stability. Type I reclaim my attention to protect and consolidate your energy. The council now addresses a fear many carry silently, the fear of losing motivation or ambition. As the new frequency settles, old drivers like pressure, competition, and external validation lose power. This can feel like emptiness or laziness, but it is neither. It is recalibration of purpose. Action will now emerge from resonance, not obligation. This feels unfamiliar and unsettling because effort once equaled worth. The shock is realizing how much exhaustion was normalized. In this band, forced action drains rapidly, while aligned action feels effortless yet impactful. You may pause more, reflect longer, or wait without explanation. This is not stagnation, it is gestation. The council reassures that momentum will return, but it will feel cleaner, quieter, and more precise. Type I allow new purpose to release outdated definitions of productivity. Here is a message many resist: emotional honesty is now non-negotiable. Not public honesty, but internal honesty. The council explains that lying to yourself creates immediate energetic distortion. You may feel sudden fatigue, heaviness in the chest, or mental fog when you deny what you feel. This is feedback, not punishment. The new frequency values transparency over comfort. This can shock those conditioned to suppress emotions for harmony or survival. Yet suppression now creates more disruption than expression. This does not mean reacting impulsively, it means acknowledging truth internally first. Clarity follows acknowledgement. Type I honor my feelings to stabilize emotional flow. The Arcturian Council now delivers a warning disguised as guidance: rushing integration will backfire. Many feel urgency to catch up, fearing they are behind. This urgency itself is residue from the old frequency. Growth here is not competitive. Forcing awakening creates burnout, confusion, or spiritual bypassing. The council emphasizes pacing as wisdom. Integration happens in waves, not leaps. Rest is part of the process. You are not meant to understand everything at once. Trust the sequence. Type I trust the process to release unnecessary pressure. Something profound is occurring in your relationships: energetic transparency. The council explains that words now carry less weight than frequency. You may notice people saying the right things yet feeling wrong, or saying very little yet feeling safe. This can be shocking because it dismantles social conditioning around politeness and appearance. Your body responds faster than your mind. If confusion arises, follow sensation over explanation. The new frequency communicates through resonance. This simplifies connection but also exposes incompatibility quickly. Type I trust resonance to navigate relationships with clarity. The council now speaks about fear, not as an enemy but as information. Fear surfaces faster in this band because it seeks resolution, not dominance. Avoidance amplifies it. Presence dissolves it. This is shocking because many were taught to fight or suppress fear. Here, observation is enough. Fear loses power when witnessed without judgment. The council invites curiosity instead of resistance. Ask what fear protects, not what it threatens. Type I observe without fear to transform this energy. A subtle yet powerful shift is occurring in how you relate to choice. The council explains that indecision now creates more discomfort than wrong decisions. This is because stagnation disrupts flow. Movement, even imperfect, provides feedback. The shock is realizing clarity comes after action, not before. Trust grows through engagement. Type I choose movement to restore momentum. The new frequency also heightens empathy, and this can feel overwhelming. You may absorb emotions that are not yours. The council stresses energetic boundaries, not isolation. Awareness of what belongs to you and what does not is essential. Grounding practices are not spiritual trends, they are necessities. Type I ground my energy to maintain clarity. You are not alone in this transition, even when it feels solitary. Many are awakening quietly, without language for it. Connection will come through resonance, not searching. Trust that alignment attracts alignment. Rest when needed. Listen often. Type I am supported to seal and claim this portion of the transmission. The Arcturian Council now turns your attention to a subtle but destabilizing realization: your sense of identity is becoming fluid. In this new frequency band, fixed labels dissolve. You may no longer know how to answer questions like who am I or what do I want without hesitation. This can feel frightening because certainty once provided safety. The shock is that uncertainty is now a sign of expansion, not loss. The Council explains that identity was once a structure built for survival, shaped by roles, wounds, and expectations. As survival frequencies fade, that structure loosens. What emerges is presence without definition. This is not emptiness, it is potential. You may feel unanchored, as if the ground beneath you has softened. This softness allows new forms to emerge organically. Do not rush to redefine yourself. Allow the unknown to breathe. Clarity will arise through lived experience, not conceptual answers. Type I allow the unknown to stabilize within this identity transition. A message many find uncomfortable is now delivered: control mechanisms are failing. Planning, micromanaging, and anticipating every outcome no longer produce security. Instead, they exhaust you. The Council explains that control was once a necessary adaptation to unpredictability. In this frequency, responsiveness replaces control. This can feel shocking because letting go feels like risk. Yet control now creates more chaos than surrender. You may notice plans unraveling unexpectedly, only to be replaced by outcomes that feel strangely aligned. This is not coincidence, it is coherence asserting itself. The Council advises flexible intention rather than rigid expectation. Hold direction lightly. Respond honestly. Type I release control to align with adaptive flow. The Council now speaks about grief, not as an emotion to overcome but as an integration tool. Grief surfaces as old versions of you dissolve versions that kept you safe, known, or accepted. This grief may not have a clear source, making it confusing and heavy. The shock is realizing you are mourning lives you never fully lived and selves you are outgrowing. This grief is not a setback. It is acknowledgement. Allowing it prevents stagnation. Suppressing it delays integration. The Council reminds you that grief and gratitude can coexist. You are allowed to honor what was while welcoming what is becoming. Type I allow grief to soften resistance and invite healing. Another destabilizing truth emerges: silence is becoming more informative than words. You may feel less inclined to explain yourself, defend choices, or narrate your process. This can be misinterpreted by others as withdrawal or indifference. The Council clarifies that silence is not absence, it is density. Within this frequency, unnecessary speech dissipates energy. Listening becomes primary. This can feel shocking in a culture that rewards constant expression. Trust that what matters will be communicated through presence, timing, and action. Not everything needs articulation. Type I honors silence to deepen perceptive clarity. The Council emphasizes that forcing revelation creates distortion. Integration unfolds through rhythm, not urgency. You may feel moments of stillness that seem unproductive. They are not. They are recalibrations. Trust the pauses. They prepare you to hold more. Nothing meaningful is being withheld from you. Everything arrives when your system can sustain it without collapse. Type I trust alignment to seal and claim this phase of the message. The Arcturian Council now addresses a phenomenon that many experience but rarely name: sudden disinterest in drama. Situations that once provoked strong reactions now feel distant, almost irrelevant. This can be shocking, because emotional intensity was once mistaken for aliveness. you may worry that you are becoming numb or detached. The council clarifies that this is not numbness, it is regulation. Your nervous system is no longer addicted to chaos for stimulation. This new frequency stabilizes perception, making exaggerated emotional loops feel unnatural. As a result, arguments, gossip, and manufactured outrage lose their grip. Others may accuse you of not caring, when in truth you care more selectively. Discernment replaces reactivity. This shift may temporarily isolate you from familiar social dynamics, but it also frees immense energy. That energy will soon seek constructive expression. For now, neutrality is not apathy, it is clarity. Type I choose clarity to claim emotional sovereignty within this frequency. The council now reveals an uncomfortable adjustment: your tolerance for incongruence is diminishing. When words and actions do not match, whether in yourself or others, you feel it instantly. This creates a low-grade discomfort that cannot be ignored. The shock is that politeness can no longer override truth. You may feel compelled to change routines, speak honestly, or exit situations without dramatic explanation. This is not impulsiveness, it is coherence seeking alignment. The council explains that incongruence creates energetic drag in this frequency, slowing integration. Authenticity, even when quiet, restores flow. You may fear being misunderstood, yet remaining misaligned now costs more than being misjudged. Integrity becomes the stabilizing force. Type I choose integrity to align words, actions, and energy. Another revelation emerges: rest is no longer recovery, it is recalibration. The council emphasizes that fatigue many experience is not from doing too much, but from integrating too much too quickly. This frequency delivers information continuously, even during stillness. Rest allows your system to organize that information. Ignoring the need for rest results in irritability, fog, or emotional volatility. This may shock those conditioned to push through exhaustion. Productivity models from the old frequency no longer apply. Quality of presence outweighs quantity of effort. When you honor rest, clarity sharpens naturally. Type I honor rest to support nervous system integration. The council now speaks about creativity, revealing that it is shifting from expression to transmission. You may feel urges to write, build, speak, or create without knowing why or for whom. This can feel unsettling because motivation lacks familiar rewards. The shock is realizing creativity is no longer about recognition, it is about resonance. What you create carries frequency regardless of audience size. The council encourages honoring these impulses without overthinking outcome. Creation anchors the new band into form. Type I allow creation to channel this frequency into expression. This segment concludes with the stabilizing truth: trust is becoming internalized. You may feel less reliant on reassurance, confirmation, or external validation. This can feel lonely at first, as familiar feedback loops dissolve. The council reassures that self-trust is the foundation of this frequency. It develops through listening, responding, and observing the results. Confidence here is quiet, not performative. You do not need to convince anyone of what you know. Embody it. Type I trust myself to seal and claim this phase of the transmission. The Arcturian Council now introduces a rehooking revelation designed to shake you awake again. The world you thought was collapsing is actually shedding weight, and what feels like loss is the nervous system releasing timelines that can no longer sustain you. This is shocking because collapse was framed as failure, yet here it functions as liberation. Structures you relied on, beliefs, routines, even long-term plans may dissolve without warning. This can feel terrifying, like standing on air. The council explains that this frequency removes excess density so movement becomes possible again. If you feel disoriented, it is because orientation is being recalibrated internally instead of externally. The urge to rebuild immediately may arise, but patience is critical. Building too soon recreates old architecture. Let the space remain open long enough for a new pattern to reveal itself. This is not destruction, it is intelligent subtraction. Type I allow the reset to consciously align with this clearing phase. A deeper truth now surfaces: your relationship with fear is changing at the cellular level. Fear no longer serves as a primary motivator but as a signal requiring interpretation. This can feel unsettling because urgency once created momentum. Without it, you may feel oddly calm in situations that previously triggered panic. Others may not understand this shift and may project concern or judgment. The Council clarifies that fear responses are being refined, not erased. You are learning to distinguish real threat from conditioned reaction. This discernment increases safety, not risk. The shock lies in realizing how often fear was rehearsed unnecessarily. Calm is not denial, it is perception without distortion. Type I read fear clearly to refine this new relationship. The Council now addresses a subtle loneliness many experience during this phase. Even when surrounded by people, you may feel unseen or out of sync. This is not because something is wrong with you, but because resonance is recalibrating faster than social structures. The shock is understanding that connection based on shared history may fade, while connection based on shared frequency strengthens. This transition can feel like emotional limbo. Do not rush to fill it. The Council reassures that new forms of connection emerge naturally once integration stabilizes. Forced belonging creates distortion. Solitude here is not abandonment, it is alignment in progress. Type I trust resonance to connect me to ease this passage. Another destabilizing realization emerges: certainty is no longer required to move forward. The Council explains that waiting for complete understanding delays alignment. In this frequency, partial clarity is sufficient. Action refines perception. This contradicts old teachings that demanded certainty before commitment. The shock is realizing how much life was postponed while waiting to feel ready. Readiness now emerges through engagement, not contemplation. Small, honest steps matter more than perfect plans. Type I move with clarity to restore flow without pressure. This segment closes with a powerful stabilizer from the Council: compassion must now include yourself fully. Self-criticism creates energetic noise that interferes with integration. Many attempt to fix themselves out of habit, not necessity. The Council reminds you that nothing is wrong with your pace, your emotions, or your process. Gentleness accelerates adaptation. Harshness slows it. Treat yourself as a system learning a new language patiently, repetitively, without judgment. Type I choose self-compassion to seal and claim this phase of the message. The Arcturian Council now delivers a message that may feel both shocking and liberating: your past agreements, both spoken and unspoken, are dissolving within this new frequency. These agreements include promises made to others, expectations you held for yourself, and even inherited belief patterns that shaped your identity. The Council clarifies that their dissolution is not a failure or betrayal, it is realignment. You may feel sudden impulses to leave situations, cut ties, or renegotiate boundaries without full logical reasoning. This can feel disorienting because so much of your life has been built around consistency and predictability. The shock is realizing that freedom does not require chaos, it requires truth. Even small acts of honoring your energy now carry amplified consequences, and the clarity that emerges may surprise you. Relationships, work commitments, and daily routines will begin to shift in subtle but undeniable ways. The Council urges you not to fight this release. Resistance prolongs discomfort, Surrender allows for clarity and flow. Observe where your energy naturally rises and falls. This is your inner compass guiding you through dissolution toward alignment. Type I release old agreements to consciously embrace this recalibration and claim your personal sovereignty. The Council now addresses an internal phenomenon that may feel destabilizing, sudden bursts of insight that are incomprehensible at first. Ideas, realizations, or intuitive downloads may arrive fully formed, yet your mind struggles to interpret them. This can feel frightening because the intellect cannot contain the information. The Arcturians explain that your brain is evolving to process multidimensional input, translating frequency into perception over time. The shock is realizing that conventional logic may fail you temporarily, and you may need to trust the signal before it makes sense. Dreams, meditative visions, or random flashes of understanding are all part of this process. Acting prematurely may distort the message, but ignoring it delays integration. The Council emphasizes patience. Your system is learning a new language, and comprehension unfolds in stages. Sensations, emotions, and physical responses often carry the initial translation. Type I trust the downloads to acknowledge and integrate these incoming frequencies without forcing understanding. Here is a revelation that can feel deeply unsettling. Your capacity for discernment is increasing at a pace that may outstrip your tolerance for distraction or falsehood. The Council explains that inconsistencies in people, systems, and even personal habits now become glaringly obvious. You may feel frustrated, judgmental, or even alienated from environments that were once comfortable. The shock is realizing how much of your life was built around habitual compromise or avoidance. This is not a condemnation, it is an invitation to realign with truth. Energy naturally gravitates toward congruence, and situations that do not match your vibrational resonance will increasingly feel intolerable. This is why certain connections feel draining while others feel effortless. The Council emphasizes discernment as a stabilizing tool. It is not about rejection, but about prioritizing energy integrity. Type I honor resonance to consciously uphold this heightened awareness. The Council now illuminates a truth many resist: you are learning to perceive multidimensional outcomes simultaneously. This means you may feel the presence of multiple possibilities or futures at once, which can overwhelm the mind accustomed to linear thinking. The shock lies in the apparent paradox: certainty is becoming less important, yet clarity is expanding. This is because clarity now comes from alignment rather than linear cause and effect. You may notice shifts in timing, synchronicities, or subtle nudges that defy explanation. These signals guide you through a web of energetic potentials. Acting in alignment with intuition, even when outcomes are uncertain, strengthens coherence and accelerates integration. Hesitation driven by fear of error diminishes flow. The Council emphasizes that mistakes are not failures, they are feedback within a multidimensional system. Type I trust multidimensional guidance to stabilize presence while navigating multiple possibilities. This section concludes with a grounding message: your energetic field is expanding in ways that may feel unfamiliar and even uncomfortable. The Council explains that this expansion causes sensitivity to light, sound, and electromagnetic influences. You may experience sudden fatigue, irritability, or sensory overload. The shock is realizing that environmental factors once taken for granted now impact your resonance more strongly. This is not a problem, it is feedback. Your nervous system is calibrating to hold greater capacity for subtle energy. Protective practices, grounding, nature immersion, intentional rest are no longer optional, they are essential integration tools. The Council urges respect for your system's signals. Overexertion, emotional neglect, or ignoring subtle cues will create friction, slowing the flow of the frequency. Type I honor my energetic field to claim stability and alignment as your system expands into this new, higher frequency reality. The Arcturian Council now issues a shocking but empowering revelation: your perception of reality itself is shifting, and this may feel destabilizing. The structures you once relied on, belief systems, societal norms, and even personal convictions, may appear suddenly fragile, inconsistent, or outright illusory. This can create a sense of vertigo as your internal map no longer matches the external landscape. The Council explains that this is intentional. The old maps were designed for survival within lower frequency realities, but the new band you inhabit requires a flexible, fluid perception capable of holding contradictions without distress. The shock is realizing that certainty may no longer reside in external validation, logic, or historical context. You may begin questioning everything you once assumed to be true, from relationships and work to your spiritual practices and daily habits. This upheaval is not chaos, it is calibration. The nervous system is rewiring to perceive multidimensional truths, and confusion is a temporary but necessary side effect. As the Council stresses, these changes are not a punishment but an awakening. To anchor yourself, pay attention to subtle bodily signals, recurring patterns, and intuitive nudges. They act as your internal compass. You may feel overwhelmed by the simultaneous expansion of awareness and contraction of old belief structures. The key is patience, surrender, and consistent attention to resonance. Type I embrace new perception to consciously claim this recalibration and integrate the expanded view without fear. The Council now addresses a reality that may feel alarming: time itself is shifting. You may experience days where hours collapse or stretch unnaturally, where past events feel immediate or the future seems accessible in vivid detail. The shock is realizing that your linear perception of time is dissolving. This is not disorientation, it is attunement. The Council explains that as your energetic field expands, you begin to perceive overlapping timelines and potentials simultaneously. Actions now ripple across multiple possibilities, and the decisions you make in alignment have a disproportionately stabilizing effect on your path. Waiting for linear confirmation before moving is counterproductive. Intuition and resonance have replaced calendar dates and schedules as the primary guides of action. The shock lies in the awareness that time is no longer a structure to control but a frequency to navigate. Traditional planning methods may feel frustrating or even irrelevant, as the outcomes you are drawn to require subtle, energetic alignment rather than rigid logic. The Council emphasizes that surrender to this flow is necessary for coherence. Type I move with temporal flow to anchor yourself as your perception of time expands. A revelation arrives that may feel uncomfortable: the truth about relationships is now starkly visible. The Council explains that any connection not based on mutual resonance or vibrational alignment will increasingly cause discomfort, tension, or even subtle physical symptoms. Old attachments, conditional bonds, and karmic loops are being exposed. The shock is recognizing how many interactions you tolerated out of habit, obligation, or fear of judgment. These patterns are now energetically incompatible with your new frequency. The Council encourages not to approach this as rejection but as liberation. Relationships that naturally support your alignment will flow effortlessly, while those that do not will either evolve or dissolve. You may feel guilt, fear, or doubt about leaving, but these emotions are remnants of the lower frequency you are outgrowing. Type I honor resonance in relationships to consciously release attachments that no longer serve your energetic integrity. The Council now speaks of the body, delivering a message that may feel shocking yet necessary. Physical sensations are amplifying because the body is integrating higher frequency energy. You may experience tingling, pressure, rapid heartbeat, or sudden shifts in energy without apparent cause. These are not symptoms of illness, they are indicators of cellular recalibration. The shock is realizing that your body is now a conduit for energy previously inaccessible. Ignoring these signals can create discomfort or confusion, as the nervous system struggles to process higher bandwidths through lower frequency habits. The Council emphasizes intentional listening, movement, hydration, and grounding. Your body is the vessel for multidimensional integration, and neglecting it slows your progress. Awareness of these changes transforms them from anxiety-inducing to empowering. Type I honor my body's wisdom to consciously participate in this energetic embodiment. Here is a truth that may feel destabilizing: your relationship with truth itself is evolving. In this new frequency, half-truths, illusions, and self-deception are no longer sustainable. The shock lies in recognizing how much you may have unconsciously rationalized or ignored in yourself and others. The Council explains that truth is now vibrational; its energy can be felt, even without words. You may notice discomfort in situations where honesty is absent, or intuition detecting inconsistencies long before logical reasoning can identify them. This heightened discernment is a gift, not a burden, but it may initially feel isolating. Type I honor the truth to consciously strengthen your ability to perceive and embody integrity in all aspects of life. The Council now delivers a challenging insight: your creative capacity is awakening faster than your comprehension. Ideas, visions, and inspirations may flood your awareness, often without clear direction. The shock is realizing that conventional strategies, logic, or expectations are insufficient to channel this energy effectively. This is not a problem, it is an opportunity. The Council emphasizes that creation in this band is multidimensional, flowing from resonance rather than effort. Output may appear chaotic or incomplete, but the act of allowing it to exist is the integration process. Trust that energy naturally organizes when honored. Type I allow my creative energy to consciously release control and align with multidimensional expression. Another revelation: your nervous system is learning to operate at a higher bandwidth, which may create hypersensitivity. You might notice amplified reactions to noise, light, conversations, or even subtle emotional cues. The shock is recognizing that the world now feels louder, brighter, or more intense because your perception has expanded. This is not a flaw, it is a recalibration. The Council stresses grounding, presence, and conscious boundaries as essential tools for maintaining stability. Awareness of sensory feedback now functions as guidance rather than inconvenience. Type I anchor my sensory clarity to stabilize your system amidst amplified stimuli. The Council now addresses fear of the unknown. The shock is realizing that uncertainty is no longer a threat but an invitation. Previously, fear acted as a guide to avoid danger, but in this frequency, fear becomes a signal to align your attention and energy. Avoiding the unknown now creates resistance and blocks integration. Embrace discomfort as an indicator of growth. The shock is understanding that the unknown is fertile, containing multidimensional possibilities for transformation. Type I embrace the unknown to consciously welcome potential without anxiety. A sobering but liberating insight arrives: your past behaviors, thought patterns, and identity constructs are dissolving rapidly. The Council clarifies that this dissolution may trigger grief, nostalgia, or even panic, but it is necessary to make space for your higher frequency expression. The shock is realizing how much of yourself was previously curated to survive a lower band reality. Let go of comparison, judgment, and resistance. Allow yourself to grieve, rest, and realign. Type I release old patterns to consciously participate in this energetic evolution. The Arcturian Council concludes this transmission with a powerful, anchoring truth: you are stepping fully into a new energetic band, one where awareness, intuition, resonance, and presence become primary navigation tools. The shock is not in losing control but in realizing how capable you already are at navigating without it. Every moment now carries amplified consequence and clarity. Fear, doubt, uncertainty, and grief are all calibration tools. Trust your system, honor your sensations, and release attachment to outcome. You are supported, protected, and guided by higher dimensional intelligence. Type I claim my new frequency to fully integrate and embody this message, anchoring the Arcturian Council's transmission within your field.